Now you can see that we have this thing much better, right? Hello guys and welcome back, and today we are going to start our new series. Basically this will be a separate series from our already going on Compose series, and in this specific series we'll cover up the Compose multi-platform. So by this series what we'll aim is to develop some cool application for both Android and iOS, and maybe we'll include web and desktop as well. So this is the first part of that series, and in this specific video what we are going to do is that we'll develop a cool weather application that will work on both Android and iOS simultaneously. The basic purpose of multi-platform is that we'll be using the same code for both Android and iOS, and both application will run natively. Let me show you what we are going to develop in this video. As you can see, we have these four screens, probably three screen in a way. The first screen is this home screen, then we have a search section where user can search for their location, and then the next thing would be the details, where basically we'll be showing the forecast, right? Other than that, what I'll do is that in this specific video I'll explain the basic structure of how the Kotlin multi-platform project is structured, right, and how it is similar to the Android and how we can use it. One basic prerequisite for this series is that you must know a little bit of Compose, and if you are watching this video without the knowledge of Compose, I would recommend to look into my Compose series. There are a lot of projects that we have done over there, and it's like a very vast series. So I would recommend you to go and watch those series as well before starting this, because that will help you understand the Compose, and then we'll jump to the Kotlin multi-platform. So enough talk, I would say let's just get started. And to get started, the first thing that I'll do is that I'll go to this website. So you need to get over here. This is basically a new project wizard for you. It basically helps you create a very basic structure for your project, and it makes it easier for you to get started fast, right? So what you need to do is that you need to define your app, and I'm gonna say that CMP weather. Okay, so that's my app name, and then I have this weather. There is Android. You need to check the Android, you need to check the iOS, and if you want it for desktop and web, you can also select those, right? But since I'm going to develop only for Android and iOS, I'll check these two. And over here make sure that you have the share UI, because for that because we want to use Compose multi-platform, right? Okay, so once you do that, what you'll do is that we'll download this, okay, and it will be downloaded in your download folders. Okay, so I have this application file downloaded and I've extracted it over here. I'll just go and open it. Okay, and here is how it will look. Okay, it will take some time to build for the first time, because it will download some libraries and stuff, so you need to wait for a while so that it can just fetch those things. Okay, so once the project is built, you'll see in the left panel over here that we'll have like all these things, right? And you don't need to be worried about like all these projects that it create. The only thing, the major thing that we'll do is that we'll work over here in this specific section. Okay, this will be the common section where we will be doing most of our work, but there will be some cases where specific feature will not be available for you as a multi-platform. For that you'll have to replicate the behavior for both Android and iOS separately, right? And for that kind of purpose, what you'll do is that you'll have this, like for example you have this iOS main where you have these things, right? And over here you'll see that you have an Android main as well, because it's like if I go to this section, it will be more easy for you to understand. Is that now I have this Android main where I'll have the Android specifics classes, okay, and then this iOS main is for iOS specific classes, and the common main is the section where basically we will be creating our all common stuff, right? All that stuff will go over here. Okay, the other thing is basically the Gradle file. Okay, so now the Gradle file for this specific project for KMM is slightly different than the normal Android one. We do have almost everything available like we have in the Android, but there are certain things that we need to look into, right? And that specific section is this section for the first thing. Here you can see we have this Android main dot dependency, common main dependency, and we'll also have iOS main dot dependencies. Okay, what basically this means is that for Android specific features, we'll define the dependencies over here. For commons, we'll go for the common section, and if there is any dependency for iOS, then we'll do it for iOS. Okay, I'll explain it for like more when we keep on adding more stuff to this, but for now let's just think it like for all these section will have the specific portion for iOS, common, Android, and let's say if we have uh, as if we have web, then we'll have a web main as well, and then for desktop we'll have desktop main as well. Okay, so that is one thing, and the second thing that we'll do is that if you get over here, we in the common main in the greeting section, this is basically the a class that contains like some sort of platform related stuff. So what I'll do is that I'll run the application on my Android to see how it works, how it looks. Okay, and then we'll start implementing the behavior that we want to implement. Okay, so you can see that we have this, and when I click on this, it will just show me this greets message over here that says hello Android 27, and the 27 is basically the OS version that my emulator is running. Okay, and if I go to this specific class where we have this app, you can see that it's just a composable where basically we have a column and a button and then animated visibility, and inside the column we show an image along with the greeting. Okay, so the first thing that I'll do over here is that I'll get rid of everything, right? I'll remove this, I'll remove this, and I'll remove this as well. Okay, so I've got rid of this, and as I get rid of this, you'll see that I start getting errors over here. So what I'll do is that I'll delete this file as well from here and from the Android main section as well. Okay, we don't need these. Okay, now the project is completely empty. There is nothing specific to anything. If you run, it will be just showing an empty screen for us. Okay, the first thing that we will do is that we'll implement Ktor for that, because we will be fetching the weather details from the backend, right? So to do that, what we will be doing is that we'll add a specific dependencies to the project, to the app. Okay, and for that what we need to do is that we'll get over here to the build.gradle file, and as I said that over here you see we have these. I'll just add a little bit of comments over here. Let's say I'll add Ktor dependency over here. Okay, so for Ktor dependency, what we need to do is that we need to add a couple of dependencies. Let me just fetch those over here. Okay, so for now it's like saying that there is some issue with that, but we'll fix this. Okay, that is one thing. And then for Android side, we'll be using the OK HTTP. So I've added the OK HTTP for that. And for iOS I'll do this. Okay, so this is done. And I have one problem with this specific, that it's showing error, because if I go to the Gradle file, where is that Gradle file? Over here, and it's lived the version, we don't have those dependencies to be added. Okay, so we need those files over here, and those file can be found. So I'll get over here, and then over here I'll add these. Okay, and those that are used will use those. Okay, now it says that we don't have these versions that we need, so I'll just go there and I'll add those version as well to the top. Okay, and now once we do that and sync it, you'll see that this Ktor section is completely available now. Okay, that is one thing. We also need a couple of more things to do before we jump into the actual implementation, and that is basically required for Ktor, because we need the serialization. So for serialization, there are a couple of more things that we need to do. So what I'll do is that I'll add this over here. Okay, and Also into the project level over here, I'll add this. Okay, this is basically to enable serialization. That's it. And once that is done, we'll just wait for this to build. And meanwhile it's building, I'll go to the common main section, and over here inside this Kotlin section, you see I have this. Okay, so I'll need a couple of packages for that. So the first package that I'll do is that I'll create data. Along with data, I'll create another package, let's say that's for UI, and inside data, let's say, maybe let's create a package that says network, right? And also we'll need another directory that is basically going to be models. Okay, so in the data section, I'll have models, I'll have networks. There is one more package, let's call it repository, and also repository, right? And in the UI section, for now, I'll just have home. That's it. Okay, so the first thing is that I need to create some models, some repositories, and network. And the very primary thing that I'll do over here is that basically I'll create a network service. Okay, so I'll get over here, create a Kotlin class, and inside the Kotlin class, let's call it API service. Okay, and once that API service is done, what we need to do is that we need to define a client for that. Okay, so what I'm gonna say is that HTTP client is equals to let's call it private wall HTTP client, and that is basically a HTTP client for Ktor. Okay, and now inside that, what I need to do is that we need to install some sort of content negotiation, which means that basically how our responses will be parsed and how these things will be done. Okay, so I'll just import the content negotiation, and since I'm going to do it through the serialization, so I'll select JSON. Okay, that is one thing. The second thing over here that I need is that I need to define a base URL. Okay, wall base URL is equals to, let's say, something like this. Okay, so basically this means that this will be our base URL that we will use. And one more thing that we'll do over here is that basically we'll add this. Okay, for now this is going to be some dummy data because we don't have the weather response. Also, we don't have the key that we need to add, but for let's just say that we have this thing. Okay, so the next thing is that I need to create a model, because without model, without responses, it will not be possible. So basically to from where we'll get the weather response is that we need to go over here, and then we'll see weather map API. Okay, so we'll go to the weather, and now over here you can see that they have like plenty of weather APIs that you can use. And from there, what you can do is that you can subscribe to your whatever like API you want to use. And once you do that, what it will do is that it will give you the key for that. Okay, and if other than the key, this is basically the response that is basically we are looking for. So what I'm going to do is that I'll just copy all that information and get over here back to my Android Studio, right click over here, new, and then Kotlin data class from JSON. This is basically a plugin that you can use to convert your JSON or strings into your responses. And I'm going to name it weather response. Okay, now I'll just generate it. So now once I generate it, it's like available to fetch. And inside the models, you can see that we have all these kind of thing. We have weather, we have rain, main, coordinates, clouds, and each kind of information that we require. And one more thing that I want to do over here is that I need to set it to body as well, so that it converts the stuff into this specific object. Okay, that is one thing that we have done. We have this backend implementation ready. Now, what I need to do is that I need to define a repository where basically it's just a single function that will basically help me fetch the data from the backend. Okay, so I'll go over here in class, and then I'll call it weather repository. Okay, And since I'm not using the DI for now, what I'll do is that I'll just create a API service over here so that I don't have to like pass it from each and every stuff. It's like API service. Okay, I'll just create this, and then this is going to be private as well. And the next thing is that I need to define a suspend function, and that says fetch weather. That will have a city, and then that city is going to be passed from the UI side. Okay, that is another thing. And after that, now we have the repository done, we have the API service done, and now inside the home screen, I'll do two things. The first thing is that I'll create a Kotlin file and I'll call it home screen. Okay. Now home screen over here will create a composable, and then we'll call it a home screen. Okay. Second thing is that I'll create another file. We can directly access it over here, but let's say I'll just use it in a better way. So what I'll do is that I'll create a view model class, and I'll say home screen view model. Okay. This view model is just a class. It's not the actual view model which is lifecycle aware. It's just a class that basically I've created so I can use these stuff right from these location. And this specific class requires a repository, so I'll just create a repository over here, and over here we'll call it weather report. Simple, straightforward, right? Second thing is that we need to define a state. So what I'm gonna say is that over here I'll create shield class home screen events, right? Or let's say home screen state. Okay. And now what else that I want is that I want these things. I need loading, success, and error, three states. And other than that, what we need is that we need a fetch weather. And since it's a suspense function, so what I'll do is that I'll wrap it with coroutines. Okay. Dispatcher.io.launch, and I'll do it this way. Okay. And now what we'll do is that we'll call it result, which is equals to this. And what else we need to do is that let's try catch that as well, so that if it fails, we know that what we need to do, right? And we'll place it like this. And over here, now what we need is, last thing that we need is that we need to define private wall state is equals to mutable state flow. Okay. And this is going to be this, and then over here what we will do is that we'll as state flow. Okay, that is done. And now inside that what we'll do is that we'll pass it over here as a loading. I guess we can do it this way. And in the error case what we'll do, and in the error case what I'll do is that I'll add this fail to load weather. Okay, so this is done. And now in the home screen what I'll do is that I'll create a view model. And one important thing that I'll do over here is that I'll create the weather view model as a remember, so that it, sorry, that's not home, that's home screen view model that I need. Okay. And I'm creating it as a remember because I don't want to lose, the stuff. And the second thing is that I need to fetch the data. So for that I'll use launched effect, and I'll call it unit. And now we'll see this. Okay, you can call it London, you can call it New York, whatever you like. For let's say let's call it London. Okay, now the next thing is that we'll create this. Okay, this is just a state that compares it, but there will be slightly change that I'll need, and that's what I'll do is that I'll call it state is equals to view model state, but this is going to be collect as state, so that we know that what's going on. Okay, and now what I'll do over here is that I'll call it state.value. For loading case, let's say let's create a column, and inside that column I'll paste everything. Okay, and now this column is going to be containing modifier dot fill max size. Okay. Other than that, I'll say that vertical arrangements needs to be center. Horizontal alignment should also be centers. Okay. I'll import these by pressing Alt Enter from my keyboard. And now we have this. Okay. Why do I have it? It's 2 times. I just need to get rid of one. Okay, this is what I have. Okay. Now over here inside this loading screen, what I need is that I'll add just a text. Let's say loading, and above that, circular progress indicator as well. For success case, I'll create, let's say, another composable and call it home screen content, and it will have this weather response for now. Okay. And for the success case, that's what I need is that I'll basically get the state dot value and wrap it as a success state, because in that case definitely it's a success, and then out of that I'll get the data, which is a weather response, so that I'll get. And then last thing is going to be the error message that I'll post. That's done. Okay, for now let's just run this to this specific section and then see if everything works. So before running, just one thing that we need to do is that we need to go to home screen. We copy that home screen, and inside this app section, since we are not showing it, I'll add this. So make sure to you have this. Okay, and now let's just run it. I'll show you the existing behavior that I have, and after that I'll show you the response for that. Now you can see that it's crashing. Okay, so we need to identify why it is crashing, and that is because it doesn't have a internet permission. So just one thing to not forget, and that is inside your Android main XML file or manifest file, over here you need to define this internet permission. Okay, and now rerun it this. Okay, it says fail to load weather data, and that's probably because, okay, there is basically this issue with the response object that I've created. It says that they are supposed to be serializable, and I haven't made them serializable, so that is also important to do. And what I will do is that I'll go to this section and I'll add this. You need to do it for all the model object that you have so that it works. And we'll go for this one, we'll go for this one, we'll go for this one, then for the main coordinates and cloud. So once you do that, it will be fixed. And now let's just rerun this and see if this fixes. So there are a couple of things that are basically nullable. So we need to make sure that all these things are basically nullable, so that when we require, we know that they can be nullable, right? And that's one of the issue, because that's why that was not parsing. Okay, so I'll just quickly add the nullable to all the response. Okay, so once I made them all nullable, now let's see if this works. And yes, once you do that, you'll have to update the, okay, dot get or null, right? And inside the index we'll do this, else this, and this is something what we'll do. Okay, there is just one more thing that we need to do, is that we need to define that has a nullable as well. Let's just do one thing inside this section. What I need is that a little bit of more stuff over here, and that is to make stuff that we don't need as nullable, okay, so that it doesn't create a problem for us if it's not available. One is ways to do this, and the second way is to get rid of this, because for now we just don't need these things. What we need is that we need the main, okay, and we need the weather, and we need the wind, okay. So these are the things that we need. Other than that, we can just get rid of all these, okay. So I'll just remove everything over here. Okay, that's one thing. And the main we need the system. We don't need the system in time zone as well. We can add it later on, but for now we just don't need it. And inside this weather section, we have these icon, ID, and this. So let's just keep these things, okay. And now I'll rerun it again, and hopefully this time everything will be working fine, and we'll be able to get the details. Okay, now you can see that I get the London overcast is clouds and 19.61 as the temperature, okay. So that is the part one of this specific section. The second part is to implement the UI based on the design that we selected. So what I'm going to do is that I'll go back to my home screen, and this specific section, for this specific section, I'll get rid of this, okay. And now I'll go for modifier. I'll do a couple of things that I need. So I'll just sorry, what just happened? Center horizontally, okay. Okay, that's the problem. And over here, I'll just add a little bit of things over here. Now over here, what I'll do is that the first thing that I need to do is that I need a row, and that row will basically help me create the city name, right? And other than that, I guess what we need to do is that I need an icon, okay, and that is going to be my painter, and painter resource like this, okay. The problem over here is that we don't have r.drawable like in Android we have. So for Compose, for multi-platform, we need to define a little bit like in a different way, and that is basically we need to define res as a resource, okay. And then inside the drawable and stuff, and how do we like add these resources to this, and that is basically over here. You see, in the common main we have this compose resources, and then inside that we have this drawable, okay. So what I'll do is that I'll add a couple of images that I have, so that I want to use, and I have basically exported them. I'll just copy those and paste it over here, and now you can see that I have all these things, okay. And for this specific section, I need IC notification, okay. One more thing is that once you add this, it in some cases it might take you to like ask you to rebuild the application so that it can access it. And now I have done the rebuild. Now you can see that it's fetching it, okay. Second thing is that I need a modifier, and then modifiers is going to be this, okay. And for that, we'll just import the sizes, okay. That is the raw. And what I'll do is that I'll call it arrangements dot space between, okay, so that it's like cover everything. And other than that, you know, what we need to do is that we need to make it fill max width as well, so that it can adjust it accordingly. That's one thing. Second thing is that second thing over here is that we need an image. So for that, what I'm gonna do is that for now, let's just use the normal painter, okay, and import that IC cloud. Let's just maybe make it a little bit more bigger. This is just a normal image that I added. I'll just add a little bit of spacer to the top and to the bottom as well, okay. Let's call it 32 dp for now. And after that, this other part that we need to do over here is that we need to create a card, okay. So what we'll do is that we'll basically create a column, okay. And inside that column, what we will do is that we need to define this as, we don't need this to be like filling the all width, but we need some padding to this. I'll add this as a 16, and then the next thing that I'll need is that I'll clip this. add the rounded corner shape to this. Okay, and once that is done, the next thing is that I'll add background, and that is going to be white. But along with white, what we need to do is that we need to add alpha to it so that it's like quite lower in a way. And other than background, once the background and stuff is done, we'll add more padding so that it's internally padded as well. Okay, and now inside this, what's that? Okay, we need to this. Okay, so now we have this, and now inside this, basically we need inside this card, what we need to do is that we need to define our temperature. So for that, I'll just add text as temperature like this. Okay, and one more thing that I want to do over here is that I'll add toInt as well, so that it just shows me the integer value of that. And yes, that's one more thing that we can do, that is basically to make it a little bit, as a bigger in a way. Also, I'll go for font size as well, and I'll make sure we made something like this, at.sp. Okay, that's one thing. Second thing, in the design, if I look inside the design, we have this type of description for that. So I'll just go over here, and then I'll create maybe a spacer for 16, and now I'll add the not wind, that's going to be the weather dot get or null. Okay, and inside that, what we'll do is that we'll call the description. Okay, and if that is empty, we'll just use empty and use this. Okay, that's done. That's another thing. And now we have another section where basically we'll show this icon plus text, then we have this kind of a line, and then we will show that. So what I'll do over here is that I'll create another composable over here, and I'll call it function weather info item. Okay, and now over here what we need to do is that we'll call an image as drawable resource. Okay, then we'll have a title and string. Okay, and now it's just thankfully created everything for me. This basically is a raw that is vertical center, like vertically centered. Then we have this image that is basically the image that we pass. Then we have a space between that, then we have a title, then we have another space. I'll add one more thing that is basically over here, and inside that I'll add this as well. Okay, and now over here inside this, after that I'll add another spacer, and then we'll use the item info for this. This is going to be IC wind. Oh, sorry, not this, something like res.drawable.ic wind. Okay, and this, the title is going to be this, and then we have the speed over here if it's available. And the next thing is going to be the IC humidity, and this is going to be weather.main, and under that we'll have humidity, and along with that we'll add percentage. Okay, and also we'll add another spacer inside beneath that. So once we do that, I guess we have pretty much everything done. Now what we will do is that we'll try to run this code on our Android first and see if it works. Okay, it kind of worked, but yeah, basically this specific item just, you know, it should be over here at the top. And also this background is white, so we need to work on the background as well. So let's just fix these kind of things, and yeah, what I'll do is that I'll go over here and I'll create a box. Okay, and we'll be using the same thing over here for this. Sorry, not here. We'll use it like this. Okay, and now there's one thing is that I want this to be have that gradients kind of background. Okay, so for that what I'm gonna do is that I'll use the background. Okay, and now I'll use brush. The reason for using brush is that basically we want that uh, gradient implementation for it. Okay, so let's just import that. It's probably like this, and now I'll just get all that column inside this. Okay, now once I do that, this specific needs section needs to be going there. Okay, and other than that, I'll do is that I'll go ahead and add it to the top. And also let's add some padding as well, because without padding it looks really bad. That's one thing. Then we have this column that is going to be centered, so I'll just align it as a center. Okay, and then we'll add a button at the end of that. But yeah, I guess now when I run it, it should show me some background, some better background, I would say. And the other images should look better as well. Okay, now it looks good. These icons plus this white looks a little bit bad, so I need to like add some uh, stuff to it so that it's not that visible. And over here the issue is that I wanted to add it as 01F. I added 1, so I'll just, once I do that, I guess that specific section should be good. Fine. Okay, now you can see that we have this thing. We just need to update the color for these icons that we have. So it's pretty straightforward, I would say. And that is over here inside this weather info. So let's just add these to all the colors like this. And also for the top bar as well, where we have this city. And for this, what we can do is that we can add a tint and add a white color. Now let's run it again. Okay, we have this thing implemented now. This is coming from the backend, the 19° and all these kind of thing, right? What else we can do is that we need to add that button in the bottom, and once we add that, I guess the first screen implementation would be done. We can definitely add some border and maybe add some date as well over here, but for now let's keep it this way. Okay, column over here, this is basically the thing. So what we'll do is that we'll add, sorry, after this let's just add fill max width. Okay, so that this covers the empty space, right? Okay, so that is done, and I guess that's pretty much for the first part of this video. Okay, right, and now we need to test it on our iOS as well, because that is also important to test it over there as well. So I'll just run the code on iOS. What you need to do is that you need to get over here on the top and then change it to iOS, and then just run it. Okay, so the simulator has run, and now it will be just run in a while. Okay, so we have the CMP weather running, and here you go, the same code running on both the application, right? But there is one issue, and that issue is that we have this, top section being white and in the bottom as well. We don't want that. So we need to fix that. Okay, so to fix that, what you need to do is that you need to go over here into your iOS main section and go to your sorry, not the iOS main, into the iOS app section. Okay, and inside that iOS app, go to this content view.swift, right? And what you need to do is that other than keyboard, will just ignore all the safe areas for this. Okay, so not just keyboard, it will be doing it for all. Now let's rerun it on the iOS. This will break a couple of things, but we are here to fix those. Okay. Right. You see, it's like done, but the problem now we see is that the city and this icon just got to the top without, So let's just fix that. Okay. So we'll get back to the home screen over here. Sorry, not over here. So we'll get over here into this section. So now you see when the color is applied, what we will do is that we'll add system bar padding as well. Okay. So that it just add the padding for the system bars. And now when I run it, this will probably be fixed. The color will be applied to all the section, but the content will start from this section, which is basically the safe area. Now you can see that we have this thing much better, right? So I guess that's pretty much it for the first video of our Compose multi-platform. And in the next video, what we'll do is that we'll implement the forecast for that specific city, and also will allow the user to change the city. So for now, we have defaulted it to London, but let's allow the user to change it to, different cities and see how we can do that. So thank you so much for watching the video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe. I have a Compose series going on my channel as well. You can check that out as well. We have implemented a couple of really exciting projects in that series as well, and that is also ongoing. And in this specific series, I have also planned to do some really cool and real-time projects rather than just dummy projects. So thank you so much once again for watching the video. You can join my Discord server if you have any question. Don't forget to comment your suggestion or feedback, and if you have any question, and I'll see you in the next video. So till then, happy coding. Bye.